Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to another class on General English for your fourth semester. This is Meenu. I hope that you all are doing well, and I really hope that we can meet sometime soon in person and continue these classes. So, today in this class, we are going to deal with another poem, an Australian poem named We Are Going by Udjeru Nunakal. She is also known as Kath Walker. Let's start the class by learning a little bit about our author, our poet. So this is Udjeru Nunakal. She was born in 1920. She was an Aboriginal rights activist, poet, artist, educator, and cultural ambassador. So she was born in Australia, in Queensland, in an island named North Stradbroke Island, and her father was Edward Ruska. He was a member of the Nunakal Aboriginal tribe, and her mother's name was Lucy. So, Aborigines are the original people of the continent of Australia. So, there are many different Aboriginal tribes in Australia. Nunakal is one such tribe belonging to this island in Queensland, and her father was a member of this tribe. And she was exposed at a very young age. For the first 20 years of her life, she was raised in such a way that she had very strong awareness about the injustice and wretchedness which was forced upon the Aboriginal population in Australia. Her name itself, even though she had a different name Kath Walker, she adopted her Aboriginal name Udjeru, which means paper bark tree, and she adopted Nunakal, the name of the tribe, later. And at a very small age, I think about when she was in her late 20s, she started writing poetry, and she had very strong political ideals even before becoming a poet. And therefore, she used her poetry as a medium of political protest, and she also used it to champion the culture of her people. Some important works of Udjeru Nunakal are We Are Going, Father Sky and Mother Earth, Stradbroke Dreamtime, etc. Let us start by reading this poem by Udjeru Nunakal, We Are Going. They came into the little town, a semi-naked band, subdued and silent, all that remained of their tribe. They came here to the place of their old Bora ground, where now the many white men hurry about like ants. Notice of the estate agent reads, rubbish may be tipped here. Now it half covers the traces of the old Bora ring. We are as strangers here now, but the white people are the strangers. We belong here. We are of the old ways. We are the corroboree and the Bora ground. We are the old ceremonies, the laws of the elders. We are the wonder tales of dreamtime, the tribal legends told. We are the past, the hunts and the laughing games, the wandering campfires. We are the lightning bolt over Gaffemba Hill, quick and terrible, and the thunder after him, that loud fellow. We are the quiet daybreak paling the dark lagoon. We are the shadow ghosts creeping back as the campfires burn low. We are nature and the past, all that old ways, gone now and scattered. The scraps are gone, the hunting and the laughter. The eagle is gone, the emu and the kangaroo are gone from this place. The Bora ring is gone, the corroboree is gone, and we are going. So let's start an analysis and summary of this poem. So the poet opens the poem with third-person narrative. She is observing and reporting the arrival into the little town, a group of Aboriginal people. They are portrayed as a semi-naked band, and they are subdued and silent. We see that there are only a small number of people, Aboriginal people, who arrived into the little town. This is the last of the Aboriginal people. I think most of them have been driven out of this place by the colonizers. Australia originally belonged to the Aborigines, but with the arrival of the colonizers, they have been stripped of their land and dignity and rights. Now, the last of the Aboriginal tribes arrive in this small town. They are semi naked, they are silent and subdued. And why do they appear silent and subdued? Their silence and subjugation points that they have been exposed to severe torture, violence, and a prolonged injustice which have been subjected on them. And we further see them walking about in the small town until they reach their old Bora ground. So, this Bora ground or Bora ring is a sacred ceremonial ground for the indigenous Australians. This is a very holy place for them where there many ceremonies like initiation rites were held. And to their horror, while they reach their old Bora grounds, they observe that the white men are walking all over it with utter disrespect, stomping about, they are hurrying about like ants. And on top of it, they notice that a notice is placed by a real estate agent, and on the notice, it reads that rubbish may be tipped here. So here, when they compare the whites to the ants, the poet is using a simile. And further, when they observe the notice put up by the real estate agent, this arouses a great fury in them. And till now, the poem was in third person narrative. Now the tone of the poem changes lightly. So they start to voice their protest and anguish at their own displacement and the takeover of their land and their culture and their customs by these foreigners, these white foreigners who do not understand the significance of the sacredness of their holy land and their customs. So this actually fills them with fury. Their old sacred ground has been turned into a junkyard, a rubbish pit now. So, after observing the little town and how the white people have been treating their land with utter disrespect, the poet now changes the stance from third person narrative to first person narrative. Now, after this point, till the end of the point, it is we, the people, the indigenous Aboriginal population, who are given voice and power to express their inner turmoil and anguish, because they have to witness this insensitive takeover of their culture during colonization. Now they start their expression of deep angst at being pushed down by these strangers, because the white men, they have turned them into strangers in their own land. They express, we are as strangers here now, but the white tribe are the strangers. We belong here. We are of the old ways. So they express their anguish, like they are treating us as if we are the strangers in this little town. This is our land. We are the original inhabitants of this land. The white people are the foreigners who came here and plundered our land. They are the strangers. We belong here. We belong to the old ways. Now they again start using metaphors. The poet starts using metaphors to identify the Aborigines with the customs, culture, and the nature. So, using metaphors, the poet expresses the deep relationship between the people and the customs and culture. Because from this point onwards, the poet equate the tribe with the various customs and cultural ceremonies which takes place. So she equates them with the corroboree. Corroboree is an Australian Aboriginal dance ceremony, and she also equates them with the Bora ring. So here we can read this. We are the corroboree and the Bora ground. We are the old ceremonies, the laws of the elders. So here an equation. We are the customs, we are the culture, we are the dance ceremonies, we are the sacred ground, we are the old ceremonies, we are the laws of the elders. So this talks to us about the way of life led by the various tribes in Australia before the arrival of the foreign colonizers. So here we are exposed to their way of life, and we get very strong intense emotions, the emotions of angst and anguish, anger felt by these people for being treated as foreigners in their own land and stripped of their culture. So here they are saying that we are the custom, we have been following these customs for millions of years maybe, and that might be why they are equating these people, she is equating these people with these ceremonies, and it tells us about their way of life, how they used to live together in a tribe, how they used to worship in a sacred ground, how they used to conduct ceremonies, how they used to listen to the laws of the elders and all. And then the poet further expresses, so before that, this is actually a bora ring, this is an image of a bora ring. After that, she expresses the angst again of these people by quoting certain belief systems of the Aborigines. For example, there's this Australian Aboriginal belief in the tales of dream time. In during dream time, it was actually their story of Genesis, how the humankind and the world came into existence. Every tribe has their own variety of the story, but all the stories share certain features. Like these stories start in the beginning of time, when biotic and abiotic factors came into existence from spirits. So they believed in this concept, and this concept is called dream time. So here again in the poem, she says that we are the wonder tales of dream time. So another important activity which the Aboriginal tribes are engaged in is that they had a wonderful oral tradition. They used to transmit stories from generation to generation by word of mouth. So maybe a lot of stories about the origin, about how the world came into existence, was carried on for generations by these tribes. So here again it is asserted that we are the wonder tales of dream time, the tribal legends told. So we are whatever customs and practices we have been practicing it for generations, and so we are all these customs and culture and ceremonies now. Again, we get a glimpse into the way of life of this particular tribe, the Nunakal tribe maybe. She asserts that we are the past, the hunts and the laughing games, the wandering campfires. So we get an idea that in this tribe, hunting, laughing games, campfires, these were all very common. And again, she equates the people with the forces of nature, like lightning bolt, a Yaffamba hill, a thunder, etc. So here we can see that she is stressing and equating the tribe members with forces of nature and past beliefs like Yaffamba hill. The Aboriginal belief that humans, they really believed that the humans are a part of nature, they are a force of nature, they are not different from the rest of the nature. Like in many religions, nature is gifted to humans to plunder and to exploit, to use up, but the Aborigines believe that they are themselves a part of nature. So everything has to coexist peacefully. So again, our poet is bringing it back. She's reinforcing these old beliefs and all. Then she equates the tribes with natural occurrences like thunder. And here we can see that thunder itself is actually personified as a loud fellow, and the thunder after him, that loud fellow. So here thunder is being, it's a natural occurrence, but thunder is being personified, it is considered, it's treated as a living person. So thunder, by making thunder a living person, she brings nature closer to the individual. And again, she compares or equates the tribes with the quiet daybreak paling the dark lagoon. So in addition to showing and equating the people with the terrors of nature. Like thunder. Thunder is actually a terrifying spectacle, a terrifying natural occurrence. So she equates the people with the terrors of the nature, but at the same time, Walker, Kath Walker, or Ujjero Nunakal also assimilates the tribe with natural beauty. Just imagine uh, a day breaking over a dark lagoon. It will be a wonderful, a beautiful sight to see. So while she is comparing or equating the people with thunder, she is also equating people with a quiet daybreak paling the dark lagoon. So the people have, as nature has terrifying and beautiful aspects, man also is like that. They have two shades, terrifying and beautiful aspects. And further, she reiterates other beliefs by the Aborigines. The Aborigines believed in spirits and supernatural, paranormal activities and all. So here we can see that she has written, "We are the shadow ghosts creeping back as the campfires burn low. We are nature and the past, all the old ways gone now and scattered." If you read this, she equates them, the tribes, with the shadow ghosts creeping back as the campfires burn low. So again, we understand some ways of the Aborigines, how they used to believe in spirits and all. So the belief in supernatural and paranormal is relived here. Now she has now successfully identified the tribe with nature, with the supernatural, with the customs, culture, ceremonies, everything. So now she finally laments that all the old ways in which the tribes have believed so far, those are all gone now. And this change happened with the destructive arrival of the colonizers. The colonizers, the white men, came from European countries and they invaded this island, which was theirs, their own land, and they stripped them of their rights one by one. They stripped them of their dignity. They completely interfered their hand into the customs of the land and people. They treated the customs of the land with disrespect. They defiled the land. They plundered them and robbed them of their natural environment. They completely destroyed the scrubs and they stopped the hunting and the laughter of these tribes. And with the destruction of their beautiful natural environment, their animals, their live animals like the eagle, the emu, the kangaroo, they have all left the place. They have all gone from the place. Along with the natural environment, they have also defiled the sacred spots like the Bora ring. They have completely treated these holy places with utter disrespect, and that has led to the death of the spiritual environment too. So their natural environment and spiritual environment has lost its life. They have completely destroyed and plundered it. And there is a reciprocal relationship between man, nature, and spirit. One cannot exist without the other. And with the last loss of hope, with the complete going away from this place of animals like eagle, the emu, and the kangaroo, the man also cannot exist in this foreign land now. Even though they are the inheritors of this land, they are treated as foreigners here. They have been stripped of every kind of dignity. And the humankind also prepares to go from here. Before going, the poet gives a final lament against oppression, against displacement, how they have been forced to move out of their settlements, and the cultural disinheritance, even though they are the real inheritors of the land. The situations brought forth by the colonizers have resulted in the stripping away of their culture, customs, land, and dignity itself. So there is a final lament against cultural disinheritance, and with that, she assumes that they are also going. We are going. Let's now discuss the tone of the poem. The overall tone of the mood of the poem is quite melancholic. We feel extreme sadness as we think about the situation of the Aborigines who have been stripped of every right. At the start, the poet starts with a tone of tired indifference, like they are walking about. The tribes are walking about. They are observing with indifference. But as they see the defiling of their sacred ground, the customs and relics, this stirs her to move to a tone of anguish. Now she is a little angry at what has happened, and she says that we are dignified people, we are all that, we are richer, we owned this land, we were part of the nature and everything. So towards the end, the tone again changes to one of utter hopelessness. Now she has to give up because this encroachment by the colonizers have been tumultuous. It's been, they have undergone a lot. Now she has the tribes have decided to give up at this point. The tone changes to one of utter hopelessness. So that brings us to the end of this class. So this poem is actually a struggle undergone by the Aboriginal population of Australia as the encroachment by the foreigners stripped them of their culture, their rights over the land, their status as inheritors and all, as they are being stripped of every dignity, and their natural and spiritual environment is being crushed, is being completely defiled by these invaders. They finally decide to silently go from here. So that brings us to the end of this class. I hope you enjoyed reading this poem with me and that this class was beneficial for you. Thank you for watching till the end. Have a nice day. Bye.